Hello and welcome to another Anfield Index podcast. It is Big Decisions. This is a party political broadcast from the Devils Club itself, a team that has a perfect record at the start of the season and just seems to keep winning games the same way. So here on Big Decisions, we're going to talk about a fair few topics tonight. And as ever, I'm joined by my friend Trev Downey. How are we tonight, sir?
I'm super. Hail Satan.
Do you know what? As long as Beelzebub keeps popping up at the back post, no one cares less, do they, people?
Can I ask you, man, where did that come from? Because you know me, I'm from being chronically online at one stage in my life. I'm now chronically offline. Where did that reference? What can we trace it back to?
There's probably someone's going to claim it, but me and Gag's invited me on the post-match show to chat about the game at Burnley. And he was like, who was the key player for you, the star man? And I just said, probably Satan, probably Beelzebub, just the way he keeps coming up in the last minute with some magic at the moment. So, yeah, El Diablo, whatever you want to call him type of thing. So,
tremendous.
Yeah, there we go. But do you know what? People, as long as we keep winning, who cares really? And we're going to go through it all. Big decisions on, is it now set to click? Or do we still have to be a bit of patient? Are we worried we're going so late? Or is it just funny? Who's more important to renew out of the suits and the coaching staff? What a call that is. And then a topic that's come up on Anfield Index recently, Champions League or Premier League? Or put your hands together. We will go through it all tonight. Mr. Trev Downey, are you ready to make the big decisions, sir?
I'm looking forward to this one. There's some potentially meaty stuff in here that might upset our listeners live and later. Hopefully we don't do that, but some controversial topics I'm looking forward to.
There is some interesting ones. We will even see if we get a little visit from Michael Corleone on the steps at times. We'll see what comes out, people. So the first one we've got to ask, we've got to be honest in context for this, Trev. Won every game, brilliant. Before last night, 12 from 12, 4 wins from 4 in the Premier League, what we were looking for. But probably the performances, they were a little bit, it's honest to say, disjointed, maybe not as flowing as we'd want. And many had talked about the need to be patient, need to just give players time to integrate into a new system, get used to each other, all those types of things. Last night felt really good for a lot of reasons. So did last night feel like a marker for you? As in, is it starting to click a little bit or big time?
So we had the delightful period of time, I think was it the last 10 minutes of that first half, where there were 3 separate link-ups between Florian, Wirtz and Isak. And in each case, it was a lovely little pass into a channel, which is what we were really looking forward to seeing from Florian.
Yeah.
And it was someone on the receiving end who could do a thing with it, whether it was take it in a confined space and get a shot away with minimal backlift, whatever it happened to be. And then we even saw that flowing move, which was the third interaction between the two of them, which nearly resulted in a goal, basically dropped off, Frimpong's foot, basically. Yeah. So we had, I think, a lovely little cameo of what's possible there, or what's currently actually possible, and what hopefully will be even more productive. That was lovely to see. And I love, by the way everybody did a bit of a number on us, didn't they, around the club, especially Big Arne. All the nonsense talk about whether he get 15 here and 15 there, and he goes and plays 55 minutes. That was great. And I think he's still miles off it, right? So let's be honest about that, miles off it in Isak. And I think Florian Wirtz is becoming more and more a weapon that we're going to see even more unlocked by Isak's presence. That's great. That was lovely to see. I loved the return to a more traditional fullback sort of approach. I felt like we had that in the second half of the last game and in this most recent match as well. It's probably not a coincidence that Rob was involved for both of those periods of time and playing well. And I liked what Frimpong offered as well, to be honest, in terms of the recovery pace he has in defense is great. Makes a big difference. So there's another place where it's clicking, where it's clearly not clicking. And people are pointing fingers at our defense, which I think is just insane, in the midfield. And it hasn't been clicking there in this particular part of the game that I'm talking about. And we are, by the way, let's be honest here, we're talking we have the delight of being able to talk in an elite way about an elite team doing elite things. And what we don't do in an elite way is protect that defense. There is no defensive cover. It is ad hoc. It is done by lads who are not experts. And last year we had Dom doing a bit, we had Grav doing a bit, and we had Mac doing a bit. And everyone just in their received wisdom of what they were told by idiots in the mainstream media, they just believed that Gravenberch was a number 6. He was not that. That did not happen. I don't know what you thought you were looking at. That's not what you were looking at. You looked at a very good player who was able to do lots of different things. But if it wasn't for Dominic Szoboszlai's energy, we would have been screwed. If it wasn't for Mac's remarkable little toughness and endurance, we would have been screwed. It was a good balance, but we're still not there yet. And when McAllister's off the pace and maybe Szoboszlai's not in the midfield, or if we only have 2 of those 3 lads that we had from last year operating a full stretch, we are in trouble. Now we've incorporated Florian Wirtz into that unit. That's not going to help with our defensive work now, is it? So that's the thing, man, for me, that has not clicked. And I don't see a place where it's going to click unless, and I know you're going to come to this, one person has to make way so one person can be accommodated elsewhere in the team.
Yeah, it is tough. You're right. There's so many positives right now around individuals and what they can do. It feels more individuals we're a bit relying on rather than system. And Jennifer mentioned there in the chat that someone needs to cover for Grav when he turns and carries the ball forward. It does feel like 99% of our players, bar probably Abu and VVD, it's about going forward tend to be their strengths, doesn't it, realistically? It's what they can do almost recovery-wise. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's one that I just wanted to play a clip and ask you about, because David Lynch was talking about this, about, as you said, the initial link that seems to be there between Wirtz and Isak. So we'll just have a quick listen to this one.
I wonder with Isak's pace as well and threatening behind, he seems a little bit quicker than Ekatike and a bit more powerful in his running, whether that really helps get Wirtz in positions, because Isak's pinning them back, and all of a sudden the 10 space becomes a little bit bigger. So that seems to help. But yeah, like you say, you can just have that telepathy immediately, and you can just see it's going to be a lot of assisting each other, and they're going to link up really, really nicely, and as brilliant players tend to do. So that partnership's very, very exciting. And then yeah, just the first step to it really, because there's more to come from Wirtz, as I said. Very much the same from Isak, and you put those two together and you think again, 10 games time, what are we going to be looking at from those?
Sounds exciting, doesn't it? More to come from Isak, more to come from Wirtz, of course. But as you said, I just wonder a bit about the balance and overall. So I suppose the next bit on this is, if you are going to tweak something, Trev, it's probably a player more or a bit of a system tweak. Where do you think you're going for this one?
Sometimes I think I listen to people talk about the game and they seem so thoughtful, and they have a base of knowledge and a bed of knowledge based on an awful lot of watching of other teams and other footballers and other systems. And I think sometimes that I defer to people like that when it comes to tactical stuff or the like. And then I realized that I'm as old as dirt and I've been watching football and I'm not stupid. And I think, well, actually, no, the simple thing that I can see, and that I think most people with any sort of analytical capacity can see, is that we are trying to accommodate Florian Wirtz in this team in a specific position. And meanwhile, we are also playing a left winger who is absolutely not on his game at all and not using any real size advantage, doesn't have that lightning pace to get round a lad, has a very limited repertoire at the moment. This is not to dig out Cody Gakpo, but again, can we just like all of us like get our knickers untwisted and remember that we're talking here about elite things. We're doing elite things. It doesn't mean you don't like him or you're being mean. So for me, the obvious thing is you try to accommodate Wirtz from the left. Now, that may well be shoehorning him into a situation where he's not 100% useful or suitable, but For me, it will give us a little bit more balance if we can have last year's midfield, because we did not address the issue that I spoke about. And it just feels like there is an imbalance there. It also feels to me, Dave, and I don't know what, I'll throw it back to you on this one. It feels to me sometimes when we have a 3 with Wirtz currently in the games up until last night, certainly, that there's an awful lot of time where it's almost giving the ball to him for the sake of it, when there's 2 or 3 lads beside him, because we're like desperately trying to do this thing. Here's our new thing. Our previous thing, which worked very nicely, thank you very much, was get the ball to motherfucking Salah. Now it seems to be, right, we have to filter everything through Florian, and the flow isn't there, if you'll pardon the pun. That sort of, there isn't that actual natural sort of rhythm to it. But when he was kind of operating quite obviously from the left a little bit in the game last night, I just thought he looked great there. And to me, it might be a temporary fix, at least. What do you think?
Yeah, it's honestly where, and you watch it and you think, like you say, we're elite. We want to be at the top level. Who's maybe not quite hitting the mark at the moment? And Cody Gakpo is the obvious one that I'm looking at. Doesn't really seem to be doing too much. And then you're right. You start to think, okay, how can that be changed up? What can you do? And then the second thing that you're striking, as you said, it seems to have been with Szoboszlai at right back recently, Wirtz, Maka and Gravenberch in the middle. And it just looks a little bit lightweight more than anything, doesn't it? Really, it doesn't really seem to have a, and I think you're right. I'm watching Florian Wirtz at times, and he's obviously talented. No one's got any doubts about that. But I'm watching it, Trev, and I'm like, why is Florian Wirtz picking the ball up off the centre halves? Why is Florian Wirtz in the same area as Gravenberch? Surely we want him doing the damage higher up the pitch. That's what we spent the big money on. That's the quality we know he's got. And exactly as you said, all the best bits I've seen from him so far have come from the left. You think you go back to that Community Shield. Do you remember when he plays in Ekatike, he puts on his right, come from the left, that nicely fired ball. You saw it last night, drifting out to the left. And this is the big thing I can't escape. You're right. We didn't buy a 6 last summer as many of us wanted to, or reinforce it. So you're thinking, okay, so Bosley, McAllister and Gravenberch last season, it wasn't that any of them was outstanding defensively, as you said. It was the collective effort, wasn't it? The collective effort of the all-round defensive ability added up. The attacking, the passing, the legs, all of it as a collective was so important. So if you can get that back on the pitch, you bring Florian Wirtz in to almost, as people will call it, the 4-2-4, the box midfield, as people like to say. So you can all of a sudden, you can accommodate someone who's talented, but maybe just lightweight. If you're playing him in a 3 potentially, you're controlling the middle of the pitch. And also, it was interesting because David Lynch, we were talking about this earlier on the pod, he said that that's the ideal situation for when you go away to, City away, like last season, Arsenal away, to really put numbers in the middle of the pitch. And we kind of talked about it a little bit, but I don't know about you, Trev. If you've got those 4 in the middle of the pitch, as in Florian Wirtz starting on the left, of course he's going to drift in, isn't he? Like Coutinho, move in. Of course, we're talking about that. I tell you what, can your fullbacks then, like Milos Kerkez and Jeremy Frimpong, they've got space just to go up and down, haven't they? Mo Salah's now got a bit more link overall as well. Surely just a tweak to that system. I'm not saying it's going to happen every game, but surely that just suits so many more players than what we're doing right now.
It's a little bit like when someone asks you to pick your all-time Liverpool 11.
Yeah.
And this is the lovely position we're in now. We have a squad full of riches, and you have to accommodate them some way. There's no way that you can't play Florian Wirtz. And I like that idea that you're talking about there, where you have sort of Mo playing in his Mo zone, and then you have one of the 2 boys spearheading the attack with Flo off to the left a little bit and dropping deep if needs be into more of a midfield unit. It also allows Dominic Szoboszlai to be there present on the right-hand side, where, let's be honest, with the combination of Mo Salah and a right back who's very prone, like his predecessor, to going forward in the shape of Conor Bradley, it's no harm to have that defensive cover there that Dom can supply with his engine. So to me, like, it's just the simplest way of trying to fix it currently. I'm not saying it's the way, but you get what I'm saying about when you have an embarrassment of riches, you have to accommodate them in some way, shape, or form. So there might be some sort of compromise to previously held ideas about what the shape might be, in order to accommodate those guys and to get them into the team. And, you know, this is the thing. David said it very well. Good players will link up.
Yeah.
You know, you recall the era of the jersey you're wearing when Kenny signed all those boys, and they just came in and they played well immediately. And this is what happens when you sign good like top end footballers. They will find a way to combine. When we bought Torres to complement Gerrard, it's an instant success. That's not a surprise. That's what happens when you put really good footballers together on a pitch. And I think that could really work for us. It's not about digging Cody out. He could come on and do big, important things later on in a match, or certain games he could start and be very effective for us. But I just think at the moment, that needs to be our 11.
I agree. I really would love it to be. And I suppose the final bit on this, because we are talking about, is it going to click? I don't know if it's a concern, that's too strong in the phrasing, but does it seem as a determination, maybe this is the best way of putting it, from Arne Slot, that he's bought Florian Wirtz to be the 10? So Florian Wirtz will be the 10, and Gakpo does seem one of his boys as well, almost, it seems, doesn't it? Cody does seem a starter. I think a lot of people are screaming out for this. I really do. It seems popular amongst the fan base. But how much faith or belief have you got that Slot will change it this way?
I think eventually it's going to have to happen, because we'll either have a really frustrating reversal soon where a result doesn't go our way and it will be painfully apparent that things need changing, or we have one of these games where we don't get out of jail because we are too exposed in that midfield area. And it's not about Florian Wirtz not being a good footballer, but Florian Wirtz plus Gravenberg plus another, whether it's Mac or Dom, is not in any way, shape, or form an effective defensive unit. And if you think it is, you're playing FIFA. You're not watching real football. It's not that the lads won't work their arses off. They will. No. But they're not naturally gifted or talented at that thing, which is really the downfall of this team. It's where we're getting exposed, and it makes our defense look, it gives fire and fuel to people who make silly and lazy comments about the defense looks ropey. It's not ropey. It's being left exposed. And that's, so I think, to answer your question in a nutshell, I think his hand will be forced if he doesn't come to it himself.
And to be truthful, if his hand is forced with Wirtz going left and extra bodies coming in the midfield, I don't think we'd be too sad, in all honesty, would it? I think we're all here for it. We will see if anything develops on that. But there's the first call, people. The hand may be forced. It's starting to click, but a few changes are needed.